Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Spark Plug. Spark Plug is a series where we interview women in the fields of STEAM and politics. Today, we'll be interviewing Meha, a graduate student attending George Washinton University. I'm Versha, the team captain, main engineer, and lead of public relations.
Hi, my name is Safi, and I'm the lead of hardware for this team. Before we get started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, that was a great introduction. So I'm actually in my first year as a graduate student studying public health, a master's in public health at George Washington. And I had just actually left the NIH, where I was doing work in the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So Dr. Fauci, if you're watching this at all, hello. And I was investigating B cells and the effect of metabolism on your immune system. Before that, I was at the University of Michigan for undergrad, where I majored in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology and minored in Asian languages and cultures with a focus in Chinese. And then before that, I was in high school. For 2 years, I was part of the Hammerheads, Team 226 at Troy High, and at the time it was Troy High in Athens. I believe now that they've split into two different teams.
Yeah, so you mentioned about being part of the 226 Hammerheads. Was there anything on the team that you specifically did?
Yeah, so I was, back then it was organized into build and chairmans. And so I was I was one of two chairman leads, and that included our communications and cheer side of things, so our community building side. And while I was with the chairman's team, I never actually did any of the presentations. I was just simply organizing, and I led most of our outreach.
So you mentioned on being an undergrad student at University of Michigan for cellular and molecular biology. So what made you interested in that field?
So I was actually interested in that field because of one very particular instance at Troy High where we were windowing an egg, a chicken egg, and we were watching the developmental stages. You'd put it in an incubator, and basically you'd peel off the first layer of the egg, and you could see the chick develop. And that went from the yolk to small vascularization to a full-fledged duck or chicken. And that really stuck with me, and I loved the developmental stages that I saw. And I always have wondered what's going on in our bodies, from very cellular mechanisms to like decisions and probabilities that arise from it. It takes a lot to make a human being, and there's just so much that goes on that we don't have any clue about. And I just wanted to, answer questions, give definitive, why does this happen,
So now you're doing public health at George Washington University. Was there anything that made you interested in that field?
Yes. So while I was at NIAID, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and our institute was very much thrown into the spotlight. All of our research was being scrutinized. I stopped posting on social media accounts because of it, kind of things like that. And that really just showed me how much we're not prepared to answer questions from the public, and that we are lacking in infrastructure in that sense, that there isn't a bridge between the public and the scientific field. And public health is supposed to be that bridge. And I think it's a up and coming field, and it's really developing into bridging that gap. And I really wanted to be a part of that movement.
Was there a particular moment in high school that was important to college?
Sorry, I think you cut out on the end there.
Was there a particular moment in high school that was important to college?
Important to college. Ooh, okay. Yes. So as a high schooler, and I will also admit right now, I am a huge, huge procrastinator. And so important for college is right at that beginning of 12th grade, you have to write essays. You have to write your Common App essay. And I was dragging my feet with that because I didn't know my story. I didn't know if my story was interesting, and I had all of those insecurities where I was kind of second guessing myself. And so for the longest time, I would just stare at an open page and not be able to figure out what I should write or anything. And that really dragged my feet. But I think one important incident there was my English teacher, and I don't know if she's still there, Miss Liamini. She she kind of sat us down and said, hey, you are going to write your essays and I'm going to read them. And that was really defining because at first I've never been the type of person to ask for help. And I'm still struggling with that. And it just helped get to that point where I can ask and I can discuss questions, discuss ideas with someone who's open, who's not going to judge and things like that. And it really helped me not only push through that procrastination bit, which I don't recommend doing, but also write that essay, get feedback, things like that.
Were there any important skills in high school that you learned were useful in college?
Yes, organization and planners. I absolutely, to this day, I still use a planner. It's right here in front of me, actually, but utilizing that planner, I think they still give those, it's like the school year planner where you can write whatever your homework assignments are, your plans, extracurriculars, things like that. And it really helps. It's a lifelong skill that you can use. And I used it not only in high school, but also through college and now through my graduate school.
Yeah, those are like lifesavers.
Yeah.
Was it a useful skill to have in college or even in mechanical engineering?
I would argue it's a useful skill to have in mechanical engineering too. Not that the only mechanical engineering class I took was a coding class in our class, but it was really helpful to organize your thoughts and anything like that.
So our team mainly looks at equality in STEAM and how we want to try to figure out ways to bridge that diversity gap in STEAM by talking to many people who do have the power to do so, like our state governor, which we met early November. So we were wondering, was there any struggles that you faced as a woman in STEAM?
I feel this is a kind of a broad answer, but simply being a woman in a male-dominated field, you do have a couple of instances where you will face a little bit of prejudice or a little bit of backlash just because people think that you're not as at the same level as them or something along those lines. And it's really hard overcoming that gap. And I think we're getting better in the current, moving forward, we're getting better. But I would also say it's not as dramatized. I think one of the other things that I struggled with was asking for help. And like I said before, it was something that I'm still working on today. I think a lot of the times as females in this male-dominated field, we're trying to be by ourselves. We're trying to prove to everybody else that we can do it. We're an island, but you have a huge network behind you. You not only have the people who've come before me, but you have me, you have you guys now, and you guys are leading the people who are behind you, like those in grade school right now. This is what's happening.
So how did you overcome these kind of like setbacks if you did face them?
I would say a lot of the time I push through. I have a motto that you should never quit, and it has gotten me into trouble sometimes. But along with that, it's a mindset. I think making sure that you understand that it's okay to fail. It's okay to dust yourself off and get back in the saddle. But it's not okay for you to, oh, I failed, I can't go any further kind of thing. You shouldn't just full stop. You should keep going. And a setback is only a setback. It's in baseball, they call it a stagger stop. Your stagger stopped at a base, but you're eventually going to get somewhere. You just got to keep going.
So you talked a little about that development egg thing. Was there anything else that inspired you to pursue a career in STEAM?
In high school particularly?
Just any.
Oh, anything. I would also say in my undergraduate classes, at first when I went to Michigan, I was an undecided major. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was actually tending towards business at first. But in my first undergraduate class, which was organic chemistry, I kind of fell in love with the problem solving aspect of science. And I would argue that it's ubiquitous throughout STEAM, that there is some aspect of problem solving. And I really enjoyed the way that STEAM takes it from you learn the tool set and then you're told to apply the tool set. And that's something that I enjoyed.
Did you have any inspirational figures growing up, like teachers, parents?
Yes, so my mother and father are both very inspirational to me. My mom is an ESL teacher at Smith Middle School, actually, and my father is a computer software engineer, and he's jumped around from different companies. But both of them have been very inspirational. And my dad and I actually, when I was taking my first coding class in engineering, I was out of my depth, and he was such a lifesaver. I would also say that Miss Brewer, I think she's still at Troy High, was one of the most one of the most people who influenced me to go into science, because she was my AP biology teacher.
Is there anything that you achieved that you're really proud of?
Oh, yes. So this past Friday, I actually just got published. In Frontiers, which is a scientific journal in cell and molecular development. And this was research that I've been doing for the last 2 years of my undergrad. And it was finally all written up, all edits and everything were completed, and it got published on online. It's available. And I'm super excited to see where that research goes. But that was one facet, and it was cancer research. So I'm super excited to see that it actually got published, Made me feel like I was a real scientist.
Congratulations. That sounds like amazing.
Thank you.
As an all-girls team, we're really big on diversity in STEAM. What are your thoughts on diversity in STEAM?
I think it's necessary. I think diversity in all facets, not only in STEAM, but also something like public health, which I know is included in STEAM, is important because you get so many different sides to the story. I know for a fact that there's so many facets and so many different things that affect different people that you may not know. And that those stories can then influence people's problem-solving skills and their mindsets, and that's what they bring to the table. And it's really important to get those aspects because there might be a solution that you might not have thought of, but that someone else who has a different set of experiences that would have thought of.
Do you have any advice for someone who wants to go into STEAM?
I would say keep pushing through. It's a difficult path. It's a lot of learning on the fly as well. And even then you still don't feel like you know everything. And that's okay. That's okay to feel like you don't know everything. But just keep pushing on through, and eventually you'll get to that point where you're like, yes, I am ready to face the world,
So thank you, Meha, for your time today, from talking to us about your previous experiences and for your pieces of advice. Before we sign off, do you have any questions for our team?
No, none at this time. I'm excited to see where you guys go, and I'm excited that this actually is a team. I wouldn't have imagined it back when I was in high school, and I'm super excited to see that you guys are leading the way. And it is amazing what you are doing, so keep up the good work.
Thank you, thank you. So thank you all for watching Spark Plug, as we have more to come from the series as our season has started, the 2021 to 2022 First Tech Challenge Fright Frenzy season. Stay tuned for more about our team and the new season. Bye!